What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking About Baseball. Today, this will be the first weekly recap of the year. I will be making one of these every Sunday, and so obviously I'm going to be recapping a little bit more this time because the MLB started last Thursday. So all of the stuff that has happened pretty much since the start of the season will be recapped, and then from now on it'll just be everything from then on. Everything that happens today on Sunday when you're seeing this will be shown on the next version of this. So let's get started, and today we will be starting off with the walk-offs of the week. To start us off, we have the only walk-off on opening day, and that was the Rangers beating the Cubs in the 10th on a Jonah Heim walk-off single. 2 days later, on the 30th, Mariners star Julio Rodriguez walked off the Red Sox in Seattle, and the very next day, Christian Encarnacion Strand, the longest name in baseball, hits the very first walk-off home run of the year for the Reds. That same day, the Athletics put the walk and walk-off for their first win of the season with a walk-off walk, with the bases loaded, obviously. And then the next day, the very first day of April, the Orioles start off the second series of the year with a bang and a walk-off home run from Jordan Westburg. On the 3rd, the Orioles have another walk-off yet again. This time, it'll be backup catcher James McCann with a 2-run single to win. The next day, the Mets have a solid first win of the year, and newcomer Tyrone Taylor gets a walk-off single for the win. And just yesterday, on Friday, the Giants, Rockies, Braves, and Brewers all had walk-offs. The Giants were a Thairo Estrada walk-off double. The Rockies, Ryan McMahon hit the first walk-off grand slam of the year, pushing the Rockies past the Rays. Travis d'Arnaud walked off the D-backs in the 10th inning with a single, and finally, William Contreras had yet another walk-off walk. The next segment of this will be called Debuts Every Day. So we had a lot of debuts because a lot of players were called up to make their major league debut. So we had 35 debuts total from the Korea series. There was Graham Pauley of the Padres, Jackson Merrill of the Padres, Yuki Matsui of the Padres, Yoshinobu Yamamoto of the Dodgers, who had quite a rough debut, and Stephen Kolek also of the Padres. On opening day, Victor Scott, Anthony Molina, Eric Miller, Jung-Hoo Lee, Wyatt Langford, Colt Keith, Daryl Hernandez, and Blaze Alexander all debuted. And finally, across the rest of the week, Mitch Spence, Landon Roop, Jackson Churio, Clayton Beater, Cade Smith, Justin Slayton, Nasim Nunez, Kyle McCann, Austin Martin, Trey Lipscomb, Jordan Leisure, Jared Jones, Oliver Dunn, Ben Brown, K. Wang Tang, Austin Shenton, Matt Sauer, Shota Imanaga, Jorge Barosa, Nick Avila, Ryan Fernandez, and Justin Foscue all made their debuts. And finally, for the end of this Debuts Every Day segment, we will have the debut of the week, and for me, that's going to be Shota Imanaga. In his first start coming from Japan, he kicked off the home opener for the Cubs by taking a no-hitter into the 6th with 9 strikeouts and ended up finishing the 6th, although he did allow 2 hits. Shota Imanaga was dominant in that game, and also, like I mentioned, it was the home opener for the Cubs, and although it wasn't against a great offense in the Rockies, he was really solid that day. Next up, we have the injury report. Before we get into the team recaps, which is pretty much the meat and potatoes of this video, and so these videos shouldn't be super long, but they should be filling you up on everything that had happened in the last week. So starting off with the injury report for the 7-day IL, reliever Trevor McGill for the Milwaukee Brewers is on there with a concussion. That's the only guy on there. The 7-day IL is only for concussions. So moving on to the 10-day, Alek Thomas of the Diamondbacks was there with an oblique strain. Catcher Sean Murphy of the Braves also strained his oblique. DH for the White Sox, Eloy Jimenez has an adductor strain. Outfielder for the Dodgers, Jason Hayward, had back soreness and should be back very soon. Royce Lewis, third baseman for Minnesota, one of the best players that got injured in the first week, strained his right quad and will most likely be out for about a month. Catcher Jason DeLay for the Pirates has right knee inflammation. Veteran Matt Carpenter for the Cardinals has a right oblique strain. And Josh Jung, another one of a really good player that got injured, fractured his left wrist and will most likely be out for 8 to 10 weeks. Moving on to the 15-day injured list, Justin Steele of my Chicago Cubs strained his hamstring on opening day and will most likely be out until mid to late May. Trevor McGill's brother, who we mentioned earlier of the Mets, had a shoulder strain. Luis Ortiz, reliever for the Phillies, has a left ankle strain, and Luke Jackson of the Giants has a lower back strain. Finally, the biggest injuries of the week, we have Shane Bieber of Cleveland getting Tommy John surgery after just 2 starts. Bennett Sousa of Houston, who isn't really a huge relief pitcher, but he had thoracic outlet syndrome surgery, so he will not be pitching for the rest of the year, along with Yuri Perez and Jonathan Loaizaga also getting Tommy John surgery. And also another guy who I'm going to mention, he is not currently on the injured list, but Spencer Strider has recently undergone an MRI, which has revealed a UCL damage to his arm, and so he could potentially be needing Tommy John surgery, but I will update you on that next week. Finally, we move into the biggest part of this entire video, and that will be the team recaps. I'm going to tell you the team's record of the week and what the record brought them to. So obviously, just going to be one record because this was the first week of the season. And then each team is going to have a game of the week, and this is just the game that they did the best in. So we're going to start off with the team that is currently leading the AL East and the Red Sox. They are 6-2. Their game of the week was on the 1st of April. They broke out with 8 runs in the first 3 innings and won 9-0 despite hitting 0 home runs the whole game. Tied in first with them is the Yankees. Their game of the week was just 2 days ago on the 3rd. Aaron Judge hit his first home run of the year, and the Yankees just barely beat the Diamondbacks in 11 innings, winning to 6-5. In third place is the Orioles at 5-2. Their game of the week came on opening day. Newcomer Corbin Burns struck out 11 in his debut with the Orioles, and they won 11-3 in a big offensive game with home runs from Anthony Santander and Cedric Mullins. The Blue Jays are 4-4. Their game of the week was on April 2nd. They won 2-1 after second-year player Davis Schneider, who was on fire to start his career last year, hit a clutch go-ahead 2-run home run in the 9th. Finally, at the bottom of the division is the Rays at 3-5. Their game of the week was the day after opening day. Propelled by a gem from Aaron Savale and a grand slam by Brandon Lau, the Rays pulled out the win 8-2. Moving on to the AL Central, atop that division is the Tigers and Guardians. Starting off with the Tigers, their game of the week was also on opening day. Tariq Skubal threw a shutout through his start, and the Tigers get the 1 run they need and a 1-0 W for them. So the Tigers have been pretty good so far. The next up, tied in first with them, like I said, is the Guardians. Their game of the week was the 30th of March. Cleveland crushed Oakland in a 12-3 blowout, and they only hit 1 home run. And also, to begin the game, they were down 3-2, so they came back with 10 runs. Next up is the Royals. They are 4-4 in third place in the division. Their game of the week was 1 day after the Guardians on the 31st. Bobby Witt Jr. was a double away from the cycle, and they won 11-0 to close out the series with Minnesota. Despite the fact that they lost the series, that was a really good game for them. Speaking of Minnesota, they are tied in third at 3-3. Their game of the week is going to be on April 3rd. They scored 5 runs in the 7th inning, powered by a Ryan Jeffers 3-run home run, and got the 7-3 victory over Milwaukee. And finally, at the bottom of the division is the White Sox. They are 1-6, and their game of the week is going to be their only win. Garrett Crochet threw a 7-inning gem against one of the best offenses in baseball in the Braves, and the White Sox get their first and so far only win against one of the best offensive powerhouses, and Crochet looked very good through 7 with 8 strikeouts. Moving on to the AL West, in first place is the Rangers at 5-2. Their game of the week was opening day, and this was their first game since winning the World Series, and they started off in style with a walk-off single from Jonah Heim in the 10th, which we mentioned earlier. The Angels are in second place at 4-3, and this has surprisingly been a pretty weak division so far. Their game of the week is going to be the 3rd of April. They scored 10 runs in a blowout in Miami, despite not scoring more than 3 in any inning. So they spread out their runs quite a bit in that game, but still ended up scoring 10. In third place is the Mariners at 3-5. Their game of the week is also going to be the day after opening day. George Kirby threw an absolutely amazing shutout through 6 2/3, and a J.P. Crawford home run in the 6th wins them the game 1-0. Finally, the Astros are in 4th at 2-6, although their game of the week is quite clear. On the 3rd, Ronel Blanco threw the first no-hitter of the season in his 8th career start. He was not even supposed to make the rotation, but based on injuries that Houston had, he made it, and the Astros won 8-0, although so far their season has been pretty rough so far outside of that game. And finally, unsurprisingly, at the bottom will be the Athletics at 1-7. Their game of the week was the 31st of the last day of March, and they got a walk-off walk for their first and, once again, just like the White Sox so far, only win of the entire season. Moving on to the NL, we'll be starting off with the East and the Braves at 4-2. Their game of the week was also on the 31st. Atlanta popped off for 7 runs in the first 3 innings against Aaron Nola and the Phillies and ended up winning 12-4. Speaking of the Phillies, they're in second at 3-4. Yet again, another division that is surprisingly weak so far. Bryce Harper, coming into the game with 0 hits on the 2nd of April, crushed 3 home runs, including a grand slam to beat the Reds. Next up, in third place, despite their horrible record, is the Mets and Nationals tied at 2-5. The Mets game of the week came yesterday on Friday. Edwin Diaz got his first save of the season as the Mets closer in 2024 after a 2023 where he missed the entire season and coming off of a 2022 where he was easily the most dominant reliever in the entire game. Like I said, tied with them in third is the Nationals, and their game of the week is going to be on the 30th against the Reds, just like the Phillies. The Nationals got 5 runs in the last 3 innings, including 3 in the 9th inning to squeak out a 7-6 win against Cincy. And finally, the worst team in MLB up to this point is going to be the Marlins at 0-8. Their game of the week is going to be on the 31st, and Miami scored 5 runs in the first, but as you could have told based on the fact that they're 0-8, they ended up blowing the game, and yes, that is the best game they've had so far. Moving on to the NL Central, it's the Brewers at 5-1. Their game of the week is going to be on the 30th. Rhys Hoskins had 4 RBIs, including a home run, and then he eventually got thrown at, which suspended the pitcher and the Mets manager, and the Brewers still won and got their new players back, despite their bullpen being shaky at the end. Next up is the Pirates at 6-2. Their game of the week is also on the 30th. With lots of RBI singles and doubles, they get the 9-3 win despite also not hitting a singular home run. Moving on to my Chicago Cubs in third place with a really good 5-2 record. We've talked about divisions that have been surprisingly weak. This division has been surprisingly strong with not a single team below 500 so far. The Cubs have had Their game of the week was on the 2nd. The Cubs had a huge game scoring, including 12 runs, with 4 home runs, one from Seiya Suzuki, Christopher Morel, Garrett Cooper, and Cody Bellinger. And Garrett Cooper joins a pretty rare group, being one of the few players to be just a single away from the cycle, hitting a double, triple, and home run in this game. Next up is the Reds, who are sitting at 4-3. Their game of the week is going to be opening day, and despite lots of offensive injuries like Matt McClain and TJ Friedel and Noelvi Marte, who got suspended for PEDs, but we're not going to talk about that. The Reds won 8-5, backed by Nick Martini's 2-home-run game, the first of the season. And finally, at the bottom, despite not having a terrible year so far, is the Cardinals at 4-4. The game of the week for them is going to be coming back with a 5-run 7th for an 8-5 win over Miami, backed by Ivan Herrera's 2 RBIs, including a home run. Finally, we move on to the last division in baseball. That'll be the Dodgers division in the NL West, and the Dodgers, of course, are atop of it at 7-3. Yes, they've played a lot of games because they started the season off with 2 games in Korea. Their game of the week is going to be for opening day for baseball, but not their opening day. They won 7-1 against the Cardinals, and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman both had huge games, while Betts hit a home run. This is another division that, like we were talking about, that has been surprisingly weak so far. The Diamondbacks are in second at 4-4. Their game of the week is also going to be on opening day. They scored 14 in the 3rd inning against the Colorado Rockies, but didn't score again after that the entire rest of the game, winning 16-1. And they also didn't get a single home run in that 14-run 3rd inning, but did get one in the game with a 2-run home run in the first by Lourdes Gurriel Jr. For the Padres, their game of the week is going to be back in Korea on the 21st. That was the second of the Korea games, and they are 4-6 so far. The Padres did win a game in Korea after losing the first one, and they scored 15 runs against the Los Angeles Dodgers, including 5 in the 1st inning, which pulled their starter, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, immediately. In fourth place is the Giants at 3-5. Their game of the week was on Friday after they walked it off with a Thairo Estrada single against the division rival Padres, who we just mentioned. And finally, unsurprisingly, in last place is the Rockies at 2-6, and their game of the week was also on Friday. With Colorado down 1, Ryan McMahon hit the first walk-off grand slam of the whole year against the Rays, and they won 10-7 in the Colorado home opener. And finally, now that we've done the team recaps, which is the meat and potatoes of this video, to end it off, we're going to do a short segment that I'm just going to call In Other News. These are pretty much just other things that are happening in baseball over this last week. To begin with, Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani was involved in a lot of controversy as his former interpreter was fired after just one game in Korea after allegedly stealing $4.5 million from Shohei for gambling debt. It's still unclear whether Shohei or his interpreter did it, and like I said, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the whole thing, but my personal opinion is that Shohei did it, and MLB cannot do anything about it because they would lose too much money. And also, in other news with Shohei Ohtani, he was not able to receive his first ever home run ball as a Dodger quite so easy. The Dodgers offered the fan who caught it 2 hats for the ball. Usually you'll be able to get the player's signature and potentially even meet him, and the Dodgers offered the fan 2 hats for the ball, and she did not give them the ball, which doesn't surprise me, but it was also just announced today that she got an on-field experience and she got to meet and get his autograph as he did get the ball back. The Phillies revealed their new City Connect jerseys that you can see on screen currently. They were formerly leaked on social media already. I personally love the jersey, and if you would, comment down below if I should rank all the City Connect jerseys. And finally, the Athletics will officially be moving to Sacramento for 3 to 4 years before moving to Vegas in 2028 or 2029, and this is an outrageous quote of John Fisher discussing them moving to Sacramento, which, by the way, the stadium they will be playing in is the current stadium of the Giants AAA affiliate.
I just want to say how excited I am to be here in West Sacramento in Sutter Health Park, celebrating a momentous day for this community and a momentous day for our 123-year-old franchise. I want to extend my thanks to Vivek, who's not only a good friend, but a great business person, great associate, and for helping make this day possible. To you and your team at the Kings and at the River Cats, working with you guys has been a dream for our guys as well. I want to thank Mayor Guerrero, who and the whole West Sacramento community for being so welcoming to us. And I just want to say we're excited to be here for the next 3 years, playing in this beautiful ballpark, but also being able to watch some of the greatest players in baseball, whether they be athletics players or Aaron Judge and others, launch home runs out of this very intimate, the most intimate ballpark in all of Major League Baseball for the next 3 years. And we're looking forward to this being our home until we move on to our stadium in Las Vegas in 2028. So thank you, everybody, for all your hospitality, for being so welcoming. And now I'd like to pass this on to Barry Broom.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and these will be coming out every Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Time. So I will see you next time on Talking About Baseball, and my first ever MLB To The Show 24 franchise video will be coming out sometime next week, so look out for that. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, please. It really helps me out a lot. We are on the road to 1,000 after just hitting 500 this past week, so thank you all so much for that, and I'll see you next time on Talking About Baseball.